Wanting to keep my podcast sponsorships and advertisements free, I stayed away from such options. Instead, earlier this year, an alternative appeared. With my fiancée, we have joined a rapidly growing marketing network for a company which develops technologies and healthcare products based on traditional Chinese medicine. Instead of advertising products and services, I've decided to extend this opportunity to you. While this opportunity may not be for everyone and might still be unavailable in your country, I have no doubt that in time it could be, and therefore here we are. If you are looking for a side hustle, an alternative way of earning, and a space to grow as your own boss and manager, this program could be for you. Commission-based and fully remote, I believe it to be an opportunity for those who feel like a 9-to-5 model takes away too much of their life and isn't exactly worth their time. If you'd like to learn more, follow the link below. If your country is on the list, you're in. I look forward to working with you, and now, enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to the WS Podcast. My name is Wojciech Salski, I'll be your host for today. And before we begin, may I just remind you, if you find this podcast entertaining, useful, if you think there should be more of it, then make sure to follow, subscribe, and maybe share it with a friend. You know, it goes a long way, it helps the podcast to grow, and ultimately it makes my heart grow fonder. So yeah, if you'd like to support the podcast any other way, please follow the link below. There are options there. And thank you so much for being, thank you so much for listening. And I hope that yet again, I will be able to provide you with some quality insights and inspire the need to know more in search of wisdom. So today, quite frankly, tonight, I am recording, as you can see, with a bad hair vibe and with my blue light blocking glasses, so everything is orange. I'm recording in the night. I thought not only would it be fitting to record it in the night, and the book that we're going to discuss today is Matthew Walker's Why We Sleep, on the importance of sleep. So not only it is fitting that I'm not going to sleep just yet, and instead I'm here quite ready to go to bed, to be honest, recording for you, but also it just so happened that my flatmate has a night shift, and I didn't want to interrupt his days off, so I've decided to spontaneously to record this episode almost in the middle of the night. You know, we're a few hours away from midnight, but it's late enough. So I hope my brain, supercharged by by a workout I've just done, is gonna be good for you anyhow, and I hope that I will be able to see everything on screen with my orange glasses. So bear with me if I scramble to find some notes and such. I have some notes as per usual on paper, on my screen as well, and and maybe I'll also be more aware of speaking loud, because sometimes I find that I'm quite loud. So let's see. Hopefully you'll enjoy. So yeah, as I said, we're going to discuss Matthew Walker's Why We Sleep. And just as a preamble, maybe, I read this book quite a while ago, and it's one of those books that I've read and then I completely forgot to make an episode about it. And as I'm reading right now a longevity guidebook by Peter Diamandis, with which we will discuss in the coming weeks, I've realized that I recognize one of the books he mentions and one of the authors one of the doctors he refers to, and some research. So I might actually point you some of the things there as well on the topic. But then I looked through my notes and I realized that I actually read that book before. it's one of those things. Diet, sleep, exercise, work, money, and all of those things that we seem to juggle in our everyday life. One thing that there seems to be a big tendency of people to do, especially if you are living a life filled with work and mission, and you have some goals and plans, and especially if you're a high achiever, or if you try to set yourself difficult, challenging goals and strive towards them, the one thing that people forfeit as the first point of contact when sort of negotiating the time for activities with themselves, unfortunately, is sleep. And I guess the biggest takeaway that I wanted to start this episode with is that that's completely, utterly wrong. So over the course of this episode, and I think we're going to come back to it a few more times still, I actually remembered earlier when I was preparing the episode, I remembered another book which you might find really interesting on the topic of sleep as well. So we might come back to that in the coming weeks. I would like you to start thinking about your sleep as next to water, the most important piece of action you can give your body for the benefit of good well-being, good health, good state of mind, sharpness of mind, and quite frankly, life. So we'll explore this in depth in a second. I'll start by the longevity, since a longevity guidebook led me to discuss this with you today. Apparently, and this is a quote from the book, the shorter you sleep, the shorter your life. So if you remember from the episode with James Nestor's book Breath, there were some ideas about life being measured in the numbers of breaths we take. Matthew Walker makes a point that it's the quality of sleep and the length of sleep over your lifetime that will determine whether or not you shorten your lifespan and your health span. Now, just to caveat this, when I mean lifespan, I mean how long one lives, merely in days, weeks, months, years, and health span is how long one lives healthily. So let's assume that a healthy state of being is one without any major, recurring or chronic or mortal illnesses that would greatly or sufficiently hinder your ability to enjoy life on the daily basis. So, as much as maybe you might be thinking, it would be nice to live till I'm 100. If you're thinking about your health span up to 100, you will be making a different choice on the daily basis of what to do with your body, with your diet, with your sleep, with everything, than if you're only thinking about living till 100. Living till 100 might be easy, but the last few decades even might be quite horrific, and some would say might not even be considered living at all. So in this sense, we start by saying that sleep quality impacts directly life expectancy. So you might have pulled an all-nighter recently. Maybe you're doing it on a consistent basis or semi-consistent. I know that when I was at uni, many of my colleagues did this during exam periods, and I never understood it. I was never really into it, to be honest. First of all, I it just stressed me out too much. I don't think I ever actually pulled an all-nighter because of uni work. More often I would pull an all-nighter, quote unquote, when I was traveling somewhere or when I was partying, actually. But apparently a big part of this, in terms of shortening your life expectancy, it comes down to not being able to regenerate what you've lost. So you might have heard someone say the phrase like, I just need to catch up on my sleep. Oh, I've had an intense weekend, so I'm going to have to sleep in tomorrow. Unfortunately, according to the author, there is no way to catch up on your sleep. There is no way to sort of go back in time and make up for what you've lost. So essentially the damage has already been done, and let's not be over dramatic, but I am putting it across to you in a dramatic form, in a sense, just to imprint this idea on your psyche that over time, and of course it's not going to happen just by one day, but as we know about consistency and about compound interest, if you don't give yourself that 7 to 9 hours of sleep each day, and obviously those numbers might vary depending on research and what you're trying to do in your day and at what age you are and so forth, you're accelerating the aging processes in your body. And the way I understand aging, and please don't quote me on this is just like my layman's terms understanding of the process of aging over time, is like entropy, right? So I imagine that we are a well-oiled working machine in terms of our body, our systems, and there are things that obviously might accelerate the usage of the machine. Like if you're driving a car and you're not a skilled driver, you will probably be driving it in a way that might be less efficient, less fuel efficient, and so forth. Similarly, if you're over excessively driving your body and your mind, maybe by overstimulating it, which I think all of us do at this point on a daily basis, or not sleeping enough, not giving it enough nutrition, all of these, let's say sleep, water, nutrition, rest, exercise, stuff like that. If you don't give yourself these different pieces that are needed for a well-oiled machine to run, you will accelerate the process. But over time as well, we will be withering. we are wearing out, in a sense. Similarly to wearing a piece of clothing. You can wear a piece of clothing for many years and you can really take care of it. But over time, due to entropy, the law of entropy of just the universe tending towards more and more complexity and towards decay, essentially, some processes might become less and less effective. And over time, as I understand, aging comes from our body essentially not being able to regenerate and rejuvenate and run all of these processes that it's running on the daily basis as efficiently. And so similarly, as you would take care for your beloved car or your beloved piece of clothing and wear it in a way, or drive it in a way that allows it to be driven for longer, similarly, we should in many ways think about our life, our well-being, our body in particular, as that maybe meat suit that you're wearing every day, that you've been blessed with, and maybe treated with the respect and care that it might need, right? So, the the problem with the sleeping, which I started with initially, is that it's one of those things that, for whatever reason, probably ignorance for the most part, people, and that's me included, by the way, forfeit as the first one when it comes to choosing whether I should work more, whether I should study more, whether I should party more, whether I should sleep more. It's not often that the sleep more is the one that we choose. And I actually had a discussion with my fiance recently, because for a long time, and not anymore, but for a long time in my life, because of my predisposition to be quite impatient, and because of my tendency to constantly be looking toward, what's next, probably being slightly hyper at times, I considered sleeping to be a waste of time. Luckily, I was brought up in a house that treated sleeping as a sort of a responsibility, and we always, from a very young age, were encouraged to make sure that we sleep enough. So I have that habit in me, and I kept it with me. But only recently have I taken, over the past few years, have I taken steps to increase the quality of my habits around sleep, to increase the quality of my sleep. And also I've been paying more attention recently than ever before on ensuring that I do sleep enough, that I do feel well rested. And it's just one of those things that maybe it comes with time, maybe it comes with behavioral changes due to your parents or your partners. But my fiance loves to sleep a lot. I don't necessarily. There is, especially in the morning when I wake up and I do feel refreshed, I get a little bit angsty and I just want to get out there, do something. But I've been talking to her recently that it's one of those things that she taught me to appreciate more and to like more. And in a way to treat it as a exercise or nutrition, not only as a chore that for whatever reason we have to do a third of our life. And this is actually an interesting point to maybe stop for a moment on, to reflect that if you think about the changes that have been happening in our system, in our mind, body, over the many millennia that we've been, walking around, cracking up around the earth and whatnot, it calls to wonder, how is it then that we've not evolved to need less sleep? And if sleep is something that have been consistent as a consistent need, and we see it in the many different animals on the earth as well, that basically many of the animals out there will sleep even excessively more than we do, then maybe that sleep has something more to do than just replenishing energy. And here, I guess, we'll stop by on the immune system part. So the quote is, routinely, sleeping less than 6 or 7 hours a night demolishes your immune system. By sleeping less than 6 or 7 hours, you basically undermine your natural way of keeping your body safe, right? When we're sleep deprived, it's like there are those cells. I don't remember the name right now off the top of my head, but there are those cells in our bodies that are like natural killer cells. Basically, their responsibility is to clean up all the debris, all the faulty, kind of like maybe street cleaners or or some sort of fixer-uppers, handymen, maybe handy cells. And if you remember, we've discussed fasting at some point. I'll link below the episode for it. There is a process called autophagy, from what I remember, which basically means your body is kind of eating up and getting rid of the cells and all kinds of tiny pieces of itself that are faulty. And because they are faulty, they could potentially lead later on to some sort of mutations, some sort of, weirdness happening. And that weirdness is where cancer, for example, shows up from. So it's like the state of dis-ease, right? If ease is the state of, let's say, natural balance, then dis-ease is your body being out of balance, and that applies to cells. And apparently, when we're sleep deprived, our body is not able to promote the growth and the activity of these natural killer cells, these immune soldiers, I guess, that are keeping us safe and sound. So, you might have experienced this. I certainly did, although I don't think I've ever related it to sleep deprivation, not before reading the book at least. You might find that when you're overstressed, and this is a sort of a cycle that you might see, if you're overstressed, and because of overstressed state of being, you're not able to sleep quite well as before. Because of that sleeping pattern being hindered, you're not getting the rest you need, and your immune system is down. Plus, your stress levels are making your immune system even more down. Then if you get ill, maybe, from catching something from the outside, or simply by getting yourself to the point that your body just kind of breaks up a little bit, you can tell the difference. And it's been promoted throughout the book by Matthew Walker, that sleep is one of the best ways you can do to accelerate the sort of the repairment and the immunization of your body. It is for a good reason that when people get into accidents, or when people are really ill, we let them rest, right? There is a lot to do with that rest, and especially sleep. I remember not really connecting the facts at the time, and even just as I'm saying it to you right now, and I've only just thought about it. I remember again and again being told as a kid that I should sleep it off, right? If I had a flu, if I really felt, bad, maybe later on in life I had a bit of a hangover and stuff, sleeping it off helps, right? It not only helps us rest, therefore sort of replenish our energy center, but also it allows us to put the energy that your body would be using to keep you around and active, to use on fixing the internal, right? Which I think is just it's worth underlining that essentially what the message of the book on this point is: if you're having any sort of illness whatsoever, one of the best things you can do is make sure to stay healthy by sleeping well, right? And if you already are not healthy because of something, then sleep it off as much as you can. Of course, as long as you can, give yourself that time. Unfortunately, some of us might be in a position where you need to go to work even though you're ill, which is a tragedy in itself. But if you can, making space for that sleep and forfeiting all the other things that could hinder that sleep, about which we'll talk in a second, is really, really important. So, treat it the same as you would treat what you eat and the water you drink. These are essential parts. And I would argue that sleep is even more important than that, because if anything, water might be the only contender to sleep in terms of what we need to survive. So just a side note here, one of the most effective way of torturing a person, and as we all know, and I'll probably make this episode explicit for this reason, so I don't put it out there for any kids to hear, although everything's on the internet right now apparently. Humanity, for whatever reason, in all our curiosity and ingenuity, we've come to be really, really efficient at torturing one another over the millennia. And one of the most efficient way, the quickest way really, one of the quicker ways to break someone's spirit or literally kill them without making much effort is by not allowing them to sleep. So one of the technique that have been used again and again, and it's definitely not a humane technique. I don't think it's allowed by any of the official courts, is this approach of allowing the person to fall asleep and waking them up straight away after, just as they sort of fell back into sleep, therefore completely dysregulating their perception of what time it is, how much time passed, and also over time basically exhausting the body. And it is so essential, sleep is so essential to our health, to our body's ability to cope, that one night of no sleep is an equivalent of 0.1 promille of alcohol in one's blood. 2 nights of no sleep is already enough to be basically cognitively disabled, as if you might not be able to do basic calculations or solve difficult, sort of semi-difficult problems. And I believe it was something like 3 or 4 nights of no sleep can be so destructive to the body that the body starts to simply shut down. So it doesn't take much unless you've been trained, unless you've gone through, for example, the arduous training that special forces might be going through. And those guys are probably the best to ask how it is to feel sleep deprived for a few days. We should not take this lightly, and I'll talk in a second about the circadian rhythm and what you can do around your sleep to improve it. But for the time being, just be aware that it is very, very important, especially for your system's ability to suppress all kinds of diseases and be immune to the many challenges out there. Essentially, it's like nothing else. It's a superpower to be able to sleep it off, and if you don't, you will feel its results. I'll just bring up this little story of mine. I've only felt extremely sleep deprived once in my life, and it was after a trip. So during a trip, I was in Serbia, in Novi Grad, for a conference, and then because I had a very early bus, I think it was like 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning bus, and we partied quite late. For whatever reason, I think there might have been some alcohol reasoning involved in that decision. I've decided to stay up to power through. And I had to take the bus from Novi Sad, to Belgrade. And then from Belgrade, I had to take a flight to, I believe, Poland at the time. I don't know. And it was only a day and a half of basically, if you count the fact that I did not sleep for that night, I did sleep a few hours the night before, but of course not a full night's sleep either because of the party again. It was quite a party-filled conference time. I have never felt as exhausted and cognitively impaired as I felt when I was on that bus to the airport. I didn't have enough energy to be stressed. And if you've ever experienced microsleep, you know what I mean by saying I felt proper horrific because I tried to stay awake so I wouldn't miss the bus stop. Remember that I'm in a country that I don't know the language. I don't know. It's just like if you've ever been to an Eastern European country, especially in the past. Some of you older listeners might know, or maybe you've been to Serbia. They have those really old buses, or they had at the time, with no information on the wall or anywhere. Where are we stopping next and stuff? I had to constantly check on my phone where I am and how far longer. And the trip was like, the drive was like at least 2 hours. So I had micro sleep constantly, right? I would fall asleep and I would wake up with this feeling of like impending doom, of this stress that I missed the bus and I missed my stop and all of that. And it was torture. It was really, really, really horrific. The moment I sat down in the plane, I had to also run through the checking and everything because the bus arrived a little late, and so all the stress was also there. But by the time I sat down in the plane, I literally just switched off. My body just I accepted that I'm safe. I clicked that seatbelt and fell asleep. And simply I had to do that to to reset, right? So yeah, in terms of the some tricks that I'll mention from the book and from various sources that I've learned so far is let's talk about circadian rhythm for a moment, right? So your circadian rhythm is basically the rhythm that your body goes through from the moment you wake up, and in nature it's the moment your irises are hit with sunlight, and to the moment that you go to sleep and you recuperate over the night, right? So naturally you have phases in your day, and some of you might be more inclined to stay up late, some of you might be more inclined to wake up early. These are the things that you might want to explore by checking one of those quizzes on circadian rhythms out there, and I'll try to find one that I've done before. I'll try to find, and I'll see if it was this book that suggested one in particular. So I'll check this for you, and I'll make sure to link below some sort of a circadian rhythm quiz, or maybe your your chronotype, they call them. So the type of schedule that is most suitable for your mixture, I guess, of genetics and behavior patterns and stuff. So if you think that sleep is the single most effective thing you can do to reset your brain and body health each day, then what circadian rhythm is about is about staying in rhythm with your natural tempo, let's say. So for example, I'm quite an early riser. I prefer to work in the morning that I do in the evening. It's easier for me to wake up early and than to stay up late, although blue light and screens are definitely helping with that. And so let's talk about for a second, as a side note, I'm all over the place. I'm sorry for that, but it is late. Maybe I shouldn't have done it in the night. Well, here we are. So I'll talk about two sides, right? How do you supercharge your sleep by preparing for it in the night? And how do you supercharge your day and your circadian rhythm by having a nice, good morning routine? So in terms of your preparation for sleep, some of the things to pay in mind is you should not eat at least an hour, ideally 2 or 3 hours before going to sleep, simply so your body can digest everything it needed to digest, and yet again leave more resources to cleanse the body and to recuperate and rest, rather than be digesting anything in the night, basically interrupting your sleep pattern and taking the energy out of your sleep rest for the need of digestion. Secondly, and this is a big one for our day and age, we should try and make sure that our melatonin levels are rising in the evening, which they naturally do. But unfortunately, blue light can suppress that. So there are two options really to choose from for you. Option one, which is slightly easier, I guess, is you don't necessarily have to switch off all of your blue light devices and your white light around the house in the evening, ideally after sundown. But you can get one of those blue light blocking glasses, especially the ones that are really orange. It can be a bit annoying, if you're watching a movie and everything is orange, but you're doing it for the benefit of your body through your eyes, training itself, preparing itself to sleep, and allowing itself to produce that melatonin, that hormone that allows you to sleep, without being suppressed by the many white lights that we're surrounded with. So that's option number one. And option number two, of course, a bit more difficult, but definitely much more effective, is simply switch off any screens after, let's say, 2 hours before you go to sleep. And I know it might sound like a big ask, but your body will thank you for it. Your mind and your body will thank you for it. So it might also be a good idea. For me, I think switching off screens might be a bit difficult sometimes because I'm not yet fully living with my fiancée. So we spend a lot of time talking on the phone or even watching something remotely together in the night. But definitely the glasses help with that. And now, so that's the nighttime routine. Then in terms of going to sleep, make sure that your room is rather cold. It should not be too warm. Make sure that it's either completely dark, you have like proper blinds on, or you get yourself a face mask that allows you to sleep in darkness even though it's not dark around you. And if you are impacted by the noises around, I tend to wake quite easily with noises, get yourself earplugs. It's an easy fix, and it doesn't cost much, and it helps. So I'll actually put the link with blue light blocking glasses, the ones that I have, or a similar one that you can check out. And of course, a face mask and so forth. An important thing is the temperature. Apparently, a temperature of like 19 degrees Celsius or 17 degrees Celsius is a good temperature to start your night with. And ideally, if you can change the temperature of your night throughout of your room throughout the night, that's even more more power to you. There are so many different tricks now and devices out there. One of them I've heard is 8 Sleep. I've not checked it out myself, but it's one of those things that people keep mentioning and again and again. And it's a mattress that basically changes your temperature as you sleep. So more crazy, I guess, inventions are to follow for sure. Now, the big part about preparing yourself to go to bed is ideally an hour before bed, leaving those screens behind and winding down, right? Like obviously, if you relax before you go to sleep, you will fall to sleep more easily and have a better quality sleep than if you maybe go for an extreme workout and you come back and straight away you jump into bed, or maybe you watch a movie that really frightens you, or you doom scroll for some time and you see a bunch of things that get you worked up. Ideally, fear centers, cortisol levels, and basically putting yourself out of ease is not gonna promote a quality sleep. So ideally, you should minimize that as much as you can. So now, let's say you slept those 7-8 hours. You wake up. A big part of it is also try to make sure that your routine, and Matthew Walker says that again and again, routine is key. So it's much easier and much better for you to keep a consistent habit of going to sleep maybe around 10 and waking up at 7, and not every day alternating. It's actually very unhealthy to be having like night shifts and day shifts and night shifts and day shifts. I've heard that people that work on airplanes traveling all around constantly, their bodies and minds are living under an extreme stress because of it, even though they might not be feeling it just yet. So just be aware of that. And then when you wake up, to start your circadian rhythm right, the best way to go is to go outside, ideally look at the sun without any glasses for 10-15 minutes. Take a brisk walk, or just stand in your garden, sipping your tea or coffee, stuff like that. And one thing to note on coffee, which was very interesting for me to learn, is that apparently, because you are naturally waking yourself, waking your body through your hormonal changes in the morning, it is not beneficial to drink coffee as early as within the first hour upon waking, because what coffee does is it suppresses some of the hormones that would naturally be suppressed anyway, and so you're just postponing that feeling of grogginess that would diminish. You just sort of froze it in time, and if you freeze it in time and you move it slightly forward in your day, so maybe a coffee is it can be much more beneficial for you after the first hour or two of your daytime. And yet again, similarly to the night, it is really beneficial, and we've talked about it again and again on the podcast with many of my guests and with some of the books before, that you should be in charge of your morning, and so make sure to stay away from screens again for those first, let's say, 30 minutes to an hour, and really take that time to meditate, to read, to just spend time with your loved ones, and take that day lightly, go into that day lightly. So let's come back to the points. I have 2 more points to give you today, and I'm aware of time. I'm sort of jumping around, I guess. So we talked about the all-nighters, right? And an interesting thing that the author points out is that sleep and learning or performance is really, really highly correlated and important, intertwined, I guess. Practice does not make perfect. It is practice followed by a night of sleep that leads to perfection. apparently it is much better for you if you're preparing for an exam, if you're preparing for a big speech or whatever. It's much better for you to study and then to sleep and then to study some more and then to sleep than to study all night before that thing. Because during your sleep, during deep sleep in particular, there seems to be a transfer of knowledge and sort of cataloging of a sort. I think about a computer when I do it. When I consider this idea, I think about a computer sort of cataloging or a library, maybe pocketing the different information in the right place, and we transfer the knowledge from short-term storage, short-term memory to long-term memory, and then in REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement sleep, it's the time when we usually experience dreams, and you can tell that someone is in the rapid eye movement sleep phase if their eyes are rapidly moving. We are actually apparently sort of making sense of all of it, and that phase enhances your creativity and problem solving. So it's very, very important, especially for you studying, for you being a professional and fixing some problems, and trying to lock in that progress, sharpen the performance to give yourself this quality deep sleep and REM phase, and make sure to go through all the phases of sleep. And with all the sleep trackers are right now available out there, you can check for yourself how good the quality of your sleep is. Even though you might think that your sleep is quite well established, it's probably worth giving yourself a checkup, right? So an invitation here, and a simple one, is if you are preparing for something important, make space for that sleep. Don't forfeit that sleep for other things, because you will be less efficient and you will perform worse than if you did give yourself the right amount and quality of sleep. And I guess this is also a testament to all of the people out there that, unfortunately, in some companies there is the culture of pushing people to stay up before, after hours, and pull all-nighters to finish some projects and stuff. But if you think about the law of diminishing returns, the nature of law of diminishing returns is that at some point the same amount of input will not give the equivalent amount of output, right? So if you think about your energy as a battery, there comes a point where you have no longer any energy, and even if you're trying to do whatever you've been doing, your performance quality drops. And that's unfortunately the same for all kinds of both cognitive and physical activities we can try. So it's really beneficial and important for us to make sure to sleep it off, to rest up, and then come back and recuperate, right? And now, in terms of our, I guess, final topic, let's see this quote. Sleep is the elixir of life and the most widely available and democratic form of healthcare. It made me think of like similarly to breathing techniques and drinking enough water. It seems to me that it's all those free activities that can really help us that we seem to forget. Maybe because there is not as much advertising on sleep and on other free things as there is on those that you buy over the counter, right? So yeah, yet again, Matthew Walker basically points out that making sure that your everyday habits and sleep hygiene becomes a priority will massively improve the quality of your life in other areas. You will see better results on the gym. You will have higher levels of hormones that are beneficial. You will have a better sex drive, and you will be more satisfied with life. You will be more vigilant, aware, happy, calm as well. All of these different points are really, really, really worth fighting for, in my opinion, and yet again, making sure that you take care of those little tweaks and make changes to your sleeping pattern, or maybe just even noticing that your sleeping pattern's a bit off and what can you do about it, can greatly enhance over time your life quality and your longevity, lifespan, and longevity health span. The one thing that I wanted to maybe mention before we close is that ultimately, all of these things, we've discussed breathing recently on James Nestor's breath. We've discussed meditation as a way of calming your mind. We've talked about diet, food. We will talk more about the diet and food as we go into a longevity guidebook. All of these things are little changes that compound. Yet again, there always seems to me this theme of compounding, right? So even though you might not see a great change in your performance after one night of better sleep than the night before, over time, by having a quality routine of sleeping, a quality routine of working out, a quality routine of eating, a quality routine of whatever else, you will see compounded effects of those things. And I often find that encouraging people is just giving them a little push, but it's up to you to keep that momentum going, right? Maybe you've found in this episode something that was surprising for you. Maybe I said all the things that you've already knew. Probably, most likely, you have heard these things before, and yet you have not acted upon them. So I would implore you to reconsider and catch yourself when you're sliding back into your bad habits after this episode is over, because it is very easy. We are a creature of habits, and old habits die hard, right? It's so easy to fall back to eating sweets even though you shouldn't, not working out and lying in front of a TV even you should probably start working out, not reading that book, even though you bought it and you read 10 pages and you were so excited about it. So maybe I would even encourage you to put it all together, mix it up. Essentially, maybe give yourself a promise that for the next week, ideally longer, let's say next month, every day for the last 30 minutes before bed, you'll try to read or just sit down, talk to your loved one, relax without screens. Maybe you can make it an hour. I discussed with my dear colleague from work, Louis, just today, the challenge that I've given myself recently about meditating every day non-stop, because in the morning, because I would do it for some time and then I would stop. I would do it for some time and then I would stop. And it's easier to do it all of the time than to do it just some time and then stop. Because then you're just driving yourself mad by using your willpower rather than your habit power and your body basically remembering that it has to do something at that time. So consider giving yourself one or two or three of these habits and sticking with them for a while. And consider your sleep as your most important, most impactful, cheapest, and quite pleasant, really, if you do it right, way of accelerating, empowering your progress, your body, your performance, and making sure that you live a healthy and happy and calm life. So yeah, when it comes to the invitation, I guess that's the invitation. Check out the book, check out the quiz I'll try to find. Consider doing one of these, changes in your sleep quality, sleep habits, sleep patterns. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you've changed. Let me know of your results. I would love to learn whether or not this empowered you to stop doing all-nighters, or maybe not drinking coffee in the night as well, which would affect your sleep quality. And I believe we will come back to sleep a little bit more when we discuss Peter Diamandis' book, Longevity Guidebook, in a few days. But for the time being, thank you so much for sticking with me. I hope my voice, my red glasses, and my bad hair day did not interrupt your pleasure of listening. And I hope that I've given you some notes to ponder and some ideas that are worth your time. So yeah, that's why we sleep. And I wish you a wonderful, wonderful sleep-filled and healthy week. Stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.